It is time for Max versus Lando to continue. The action in Austria is about to begin as we run the third sprint race of the season with Red Bull on sprint pole at their home event, but there are two McLarens in close proximity. It is round 11 of the Formula One World Championship, and we begin Saturday with a 24-lap sprint race, 4.3 kilometers, 2.6 miles in length. 7 corners that really worry the drivers, maybe even 6. It's officially 10 turns, plenty of elevation. If you're a runner of this track, you've got to deal with 63 meters, the engine power required as you climb all the way up to turn number 3 before you get to the technical infield. What a beautiful place to go motor racing. First of all, Formula One raced on the airfield back in the 60s, and then the drivers of the era didn't like it, said it was too bumpy. The locals created a behemoth in response. Back of the field, Alex Albon's going to be in the pit lane. He's changed components once again, so he is in the pit lane. Zhou Guanyu, the last car on the grid, in 19th. Valtteri Bottas, former pole sitter around here, is 18th. Nico Hülkenberg was 6th in the sprint at this circuit 1 year ago. Daniel Ricciardo, under pressure in Formula One, goes from 16th. Logan Sargent out-qualified Alex Albon for the first time without Albon having a time-deleted or mechanical problem in yesterday's session. Yuki Tsunoda's P14 next to Fernando Alonso, who's never been in the top 3 at this circuit before. Then comes Lance Stroll, the lead Aston Martin, on the grid, next to Kevin Magnussen in 11th. Charles Leclerc had an issue with the car, wasn't able to set a time. He goes from 10th. Pierre Gasly is 9th on the grid, the second of the 2 Alpines, after Esteban Ocon out-qualified him 2-1 up in this sprint format when it comes to quali. Sergio Perez goes from 7th. Lewis Hamilton is next to Carlos Sainz on the 3rd row of the grid. And then you've got George Russell, who went from 4th to 1st the last time the 5 red lights went out. He's next to Oscar Piastri, who is in P3. And the front row, the usual suspects. It's Lando Norris next to Max Verstappen. Will we get a repeat of the brinkmanship in the opening meters when the lights go out and the race begins? In the commentary box, I'm Alex Jakes, joined by a former winner around this circuit, David Coulthard. David, what's the key to being quick around here?
I think it's all about braking, really, because if you've got your ability to carry the speed with confidence into the bigger stops, there's a huge amount of lap time there. Now, that said, what Julian's going to say, who was sitting beside me in the comm box, well, Max Verstappen got sprint pole by doing it all in the fast stuff.
Jolyon Palmer, former Renault Formula One driver, do you agree with DC?
Well, it's both. Let's start with a compromise in the commentary box today. Big braking for the first half, and that'll be crucial for the race start. But the fast stuff, it really is where you can find a lot of time as well. From the exit of turn 4, then you've got 2 quick left-handers, a couple of quick right-handers to bring it around, and that was where Max and Red Bull made the difference yesterday.
What I think is going to be, sorry Alex, I was going to say is we just get ready for them to go off in the formation lap. Having watched the F3 race earlier today, there was some brilliant side-to-side action that kept going through 1, through 3, down through 4. Reminded me a little bit of what we saw between Lando and George in Barcelona. So I think that whoever gets to the first corner first doesn't necessarily mean, okay, that's the race settled. This could continue all the way around the lap.
The green light is illuminated outside of our commentary box window. Max Verstappen, a 5-time Grand Prix winner around this circuit, leading the field away from an 8th sprint qualifying pole position. Everyone has gone for the medium tyres, so say goodbye to any strategic variance in that department.
No variance, but 24 laps. It's really warm today. These tyres are not going to find it easy to hang on for the whole distance. We've seen sprint races in the past be decided in the closing laps as one driver's taken too much out of their tyres early on. I think they're all going to have to be wary not to chew through and put too much temperature in immediately. Obviously, the start, you've got to gun it, but after that, there might be a little bit of patience required in this one.
Less fuel, of course, required to do those 24 laps than what we'll see in the Grand Prix tomorrow. But if we don't see any safety car, then we're not going to see any pit action at all. And I've been building it up in my mind, and I'm going to share it with you, that this is an opportunity for Lando to a couple of qualifying sessions where he's been slightly ahead, slightly behind, to sort of show Max, I am prepared to do whatever I'm prepared to do a Max to win this race.
This is where he can get his elbows out. It's a sprint. There's not major points to be played out. Leclerc is just behind him in the championship, starts 10th. I think he has to try and show Max. He did it at the start in Barcelona, let's not forget as well, but he's got a chance in these early corners to take the lead, and track position is so important between them.
A reminder for you, the top 8 score points in this one, reduced points for a reduced number of laps. It's round 11, it's the sprint race. We have 24 laps ahead of us, and we have 8 points available for the winner. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris. You've got turn number 1, where the drivers usually behave themselves, but then the high climb up to turn number 3. Well, we've seen so many dramatic moments there through the years, including Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc debating the victory back in 2021. Been wonderful stuff across the board. Now, Oscar Piastri is the driver that we were looking at a moment ago there. Had a tough time of it in Spain, and we'll be looking to try and get the launch off the line. 2 McLarens attacking Max Verstappen, the rest of the field moving into position. Every session this weekend has carried intensity because of the sprint race format. Verstappen at the front of the field as his father and team principal looks on. We await the green flag at the back. 24 laps of flat-out racing is 5 lights away. Will we get the signal? They're waiting for a long time there. No, aborted start. So I thought they'd waited too long. And we will go again. So we'll be down to 23 laps. And we go round again. Was anyone out of position? It's not ideal for Alex Albon, who's been waiting at the end of the pit lane there. Was someone too long in their box? Was someone out of position? It's not immediately obvious why we need an extra formation lap.
Normally they would declare that if someone was out of their box position, as the Haas decides to wait quite a while before pulling away and coming round to join the back of the group.
And normally we've seen a few false starts recently for people being out of position. No one looked like they were egregiously in the wrong space. So I'm not quite sure why we have the extra formation lap. 1 lap less in the sprint will help the tyre life for these medium tyres, take a little bit of that away.
Just educate me again on that word. Did you say egregiously?
Egregious.
Yeah, very
awesome. Good. Awesome word. Do you know the full Oxford definition?
I know all of them. All of the words in the Oxford Dictionary.
So I don't know why we've got an extra formation lap, but we have. So everyone goes through the procedure. And we look again at Oscar Piastri. So he's won a sprint race before in Formula 1 back in Qatar last year. Lando Norris, a couple of sprint poles, but never first at the flag, trying to win his first sprint race today. Lewis Hamilton knows that feeling. Wasn't happy with any of his push laps yesterday at all, and finds himself behind George Russell once again. It is a short lap in terms of time, so it's not too long to regroup as Max Verstappen leads the field to the line once again.
You see the way that Norris gets right underneath the rear wing of Verstappen? I don't know if that's a psychological thing that he's trying to do there, because it's just about, when we're riding a book with science, getting the burnouts, getting the rear tyres into the right window, but he did it on the first start as well, getting right into the mirrors. Max will notice him there, maybe just a little bit of psychological games.
Yeah, he's got the right colour car to definitely fill his mirrors as they have gone through the start procedure once again.
Verstappen on the left-hand side, Norris on the right, as we looked at it from Lando's point of view. Everyone finding themselves on the medium tyre. The air temperature, 29 degrees. The track temperature, 43 degrees out there. Tyre preservation is still going to be the order of the game. Alexander Albon makes his way into the pit lane. And the last car in position will be Zhou Guanyu, who will take his place 19th on the grid. And it will be take 2. And this time, we hope we get the 5 red lights illuminate. There's the green flag. We look to the lights. They're taking their time once again. The revs are rising. Here we go. The 3rd sprint of the year begins when the 5 red lights go out. And we are racing and sprinting to turn number 1. Great getaway for Max Verstappen, who maintains the advantage at the front. It was a good launch off the line for Oscar Piastri, but he couldn't take 2nd place away from Lando Norris. But the 2 McLarens are immediately going wheel to wheel. We climb the hill, up the 60 metres we go. Side by side, the 2 McLarens go. George Russell is trying to hang on to 4th place, but Lando Norris does enough to keep his Australian teammate behind, and Max Verstappen tries to build a gap. He's got the lead out front. Still we go, though. Ferrari Ferrari versus Mercedes in the background. Still the McLarens fight over second place. How brave is Carlos Sainz feeling around the outside? Can he get ahead of George Russell? That is a mega way to take fourth place.
Beautiful move from Sainz. How many times have we seen the car on the outside just flicked into a spin? And that's Leclerc, who's made a really good start in the other Ferrari as well. He's gained 3 places. Both Ferraris are on the attack.
Yeah, brave stuff. 2 McLarens running very close up into turn 3. Took me back to, was it 99 or 2000?
I didn't want to say it, but I was thinking it.
When I took out my teammate at that corner. But on this occasion, they keep it clean. Everyone kept it really clean. And that has allowed Albon to pretty much get onto the back of the pack, even though he had that pit lane start.
Okay, on to lap 2 we go. DRS now enabled for those in the field. Verstappen, Norris, Piastri and Sainz with one of these highlights of the season to pull off that move. Can Norris stay within DRS for Max Verstappen?
Well, he's attacking Max. He's closing in at the start of this lap. He's just found 4/10 in the first sector. That's turn 1 alone, as Max lost a little bit of time there. And he's pretty close. Look as they head down towards turn 4. He's actually having a little look in the mirrors, shaping to the middle of the road again behind Verstappen. And it was important for Norris to keep Piastri behind. Generally, he's been the quicker McLaren in race trim. He was quicker yesterday, and he's kept that track position.
This is Lance Stroll versus Esteban Ocon, and Stroll finds himself in 10th position, the top 8 scoring points by the end of the 23 laps. 1 lap deleted after that extra formation lap. And be interesting to see whether it was a wide moment in the first turn for Max Verstappen, because he was a long way back, 4/10 slower than than Lando Norris was through there. It's 7/10 of a second as we go across the line. Can Norris stay within that 1 second window? You get DRS down the main straight, up to turn 3 and down to turn 4 if you are within a second.
Yeah, I think that Lando at the moment, he's looking the tidier. And you can see how he's getting sucked onto the back of that Red Bull. Max had to go a little bit defensive in the braking zone, so Lando is there. You can see being backed up into his teammate Piastri. This is all going to get a bit tasty.
This is going to be a big opportunity for Lando Norris, who will be thinking about that inside line. Max Verstappen knows it. He took the defensive move, he peeled back to the racing line, and he kept hold of the lead. But the 2 McLarens are on the charge.
Yeah, Piastri's there as well, so it's not just Norris finding the pace, but Oscar's going with him, nose to tail coming through turn 6, and triple DRS here, all in the first half of the lap. Gives Lando a great chance at closing up. Max doing everything he needed to do just to cover off the thread on the inside. But Lando's going to have another chance, it seems, this time.
Yeah, I think Max is using that advantage he had in the high-speed middle part of the lap, knowing he's getting clean air, but he's not braking enough the DRS, and it looks to me as if in the lower speed corners he's longer in the turn, he's got more steering lock. That would suggest to me that he just doesn't have the front end at this phase of the race.
So this is a real contest, and we go on board with our championship and race leader Max Verstappen, supported by the Orange Army, but it's an orange car thinking about the move. You want to make the move when you go to turn number 4. That's wider than Max Verstappen would want to be. This time he's going to have to be ultra defensive. He's going to have to hug that inside line once again. He's been passed at this corner before on the inside. He knows that's where the vulnerability is. Great car placement once more. When it turns into a traction race, he's still got enough to keep the McLaren behind. It's that inside line where Charles Leclerc passed him in 2022 on the way for victory that Lando Norris covets.
So Max is covering the middle of the road. Lando can get aggressive with it and send a lunge down the inside, but it's a riskier play. And at the moment, Max is doing everything right, just shadowing the middle of the road and ushering Norris towards the outside. Again, Norris 7/10 down as they come through for another lap. He chalked through them really quickly around this circuit, and here he goes with the DRS again.
Yeah, that's exactly the same amount of time difference. So it'll all be about getting a clean draw and drive off of turn 1. Max crucially looks like he just gets that little kick of acceleration, so there won't be an opportunity for Lando unless it's super brave and late up into turn 1.
He's going for it! So late on the brakes, Lando Norris dives to the inside and takes the lead. He was impatient, he wanted the move, and he's got the advantage for the moment, but Max Verstappen is trying to reply, and he will go ultra late on the brakes as well. The top 2 brawl amongst themselves, and Oscar Piastri says thank you very much. How brave is he feeling, trying to go around the outside of his teammate to take second place with a move and a half.
I'll pull you from the ceiling, but that was brilliant stuff. And as I was teeing it up to say he's not going to have a lunch, he did exactly that. And that was brilliant, brave, and what a comeback from Max.
And Piastri is really, really close, as he's going to get DRS now, and Max is going to be defending from the other McLaren.
This is closer for Piastri than Norris ever was when they went across the line. It was always 0.7 of a second. It was 0.6 of a second. Wow, that was ultra late on the brakes from the top two at the start of this one, and they're battling. Invited the man from Melbourne to the party, who's had a great view of all of that. He's going to try and make the move at traditional turn number 4. Oscar Piastri trying to make the move before you get to the technical infield. Good launch off turn 3 for Max Verstappen. How fantastic to see the front row battle like that.
So for the first time, he's not had to defend on this lap with Piastri in second, even though Oscar was slightly closer over the line. What a lap of racing this was. This lunge from Lando coming up just when he thought he was too far back. That is brave and brilliant from Norris. Gets his stop, Verstappen sees him coming, gets the cut back. But then the next send on this corner is equally magical. No DRS for Verstappen. Norris is just extending slightly on the straight, and boom, straight on the inside.
Yeah, that's where Max is so brilliant. He's brave, sends it, but manages to stop it as well. Really beautiful driving and racing from the top 3 on this track right now.
If you're the man in 3rd place at that time, you're just loving it. They're side by side, just losing speed, losing time, and you could pull off a move like this as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say Oscar on that wide line going into 6 almost looked like he had momentum on Max.
Oscar Piastri has won a sprint race before in his Formula 1 career. He's never won a Grand Prix.
I'm flipping way too much.
Yeah, we'll sort it out, Max.
Harvesting energy at the end of the straight, so he's just losing top speed to try and get some regeneration on the battery then for Verstappen. He's not happy with it. Maybe that's why on those early laps you deploy a lot on the first lap, because that's when in theory you're the most vulnerable. But then in the subsequent laps you don't have a lot of energy in your battery, you're quite low down, and you need to try and regenerate it somehow, and that's why you do clipping, just to try and harvest at the end of the straights. And it's not nice when you just feel like you're decelerating into the corners and you've got a bright orange McLaren in your tail.
Can the driver override that if he feels that someone's lining him up for a pass?
If you've got some energy in the battery left, but you might be so low down already because you've had to defend and defend and defend that you've actually got nothing left in your armoury.
Max Verstappen had a really good couple of corners out of 4 through the infield and across the line. He got the gap up to 0.8 of a second. Still we go side by side throughout the field. This is Carlos Sainz trying to keep both Russell and Hamilton behind. A brave move for Sainz earlier in the Grand Prix, and Russell wants the place back. He's got DRS and he will get the place back on the brakes for 4th position. There is 0.6 of a second for the lead of the sprint. Great entertainment around this 2.6 mile circuit.
Smart move from Russell. Sainz was dropping back away from Norris, and this trio were right with the leading trio, but somewhere in there the Verstappen pace has crept up. The McLarens are going with them, just about staying within DRS range, and it's left Sainz adrift. And with no DRS, Russell with a simple enough pass, but executed nicely still on the brakes.
Yeah, he managed to compromise a little bit Sainz's entry to turn 2, and then that, of course, compromised his run, and with no DRS. I think what this is doing is confirming that Mercedes have had better race pace of late than Ferrari, even if they're there or thereabouts trading it in quali. And this is great for Mercedes, but a little bit sobering for Ferrari. Look at Leclerc looking like he's struggling, even though these 3, the Mercedes, the Ferrari and Hamilton, are battling. Leclerc's just either playing the long game, as such a thing in a sprint race, and trying to save his tyres, let them do all the weaving around and battling, or that's his natural pace.
With 3 DRS zones and only 7 corners, there is a high chance for pass and repass, because it's difficult for now Russell to break away from Sainz. He hasn't got that many corners before Sainz can open the flap in his rear wing and start coming back at George as well. So the Ferraris and the Mercedes together, Leclerc, as I said, slightly adrift of Hamilton. And Piastri was right on the cusp of DRS on Verstappen as well. This could be crunch time for Max to try and get over a second as they sweep through. Looks like Oscar maybe still within that. It's going to be close.
He did just stay within a second at the detection point, but it's really on the brink now for Piastri, who is struggling to match Verstappen through 6, 7, 8 and 9. That's where the gap is coming up. So one Mercedes got past last time around. Can Lewis Hamilton repeat the feat? Charles Leclerc in 7th position, and Perez, who's lost the place from where he started in the sprint, finds himself in 8th position, the last of the point scorers at the moment. There's Russell, there's Sainz, there's Hamilton, a 2-time winner around this racetrack, but because Sainz still has the DRS, Hamilton not close to forcing a defensive shape.
Yeah, and Russell actually will be well aware of that, and looking ahead, 2.7 gap to Norris, don't think he's really in a chance to battle up to the back of that car and do anything. So he can now sort of manage his pace, maybe feel that he's not under threat from Sainz, and know that that will neutralise his teammate.
Max Verstappen leads. He's ahead of Oscar Piastri, who took that 2nd place away after a brilliant battle between Verstappen and Norris at turns 3 and turns 4. And then when we came to the exit of 6, it was the man from Melbourne who had upgraded up to 2nd place. George Russell was passed brilliantly by Carlos Sainz at the start of the race, but he has now been repassed by the British driver. He's in 4th, Sainz 5th, and it's Hamilton in 6th place. The point scorers rounded out by Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez.
McLaren have a slight conundrum in general with their drivers. Oscar is so quick. Piastri, we know, can fight with Norris over 1 lap. At the moment, Norris is slightly ahead, but over the season it's quite give and take between them. But in race pace, you usually see Norris being quicker, and that's been the case so far in the sprint so far. The gap now is over a second between Verstappen and Piastri, and you just felt as soon as Piastri got ahead of Norris, that was Verstappen's chance. He never had to defend again. He could get his head down and try and build the gap. Whereas when Norris was in 2nd for those early laps, the attacks were every single lap, all the big hairpins, and Verstappen was having to defend a lot and lost the lead for a corner as well. Norris did a good job holding off Piastri on the 1st lap, but as soon as they swapped positions, the McLaren fight just seems to have dwindled slightly.
It does, you're absolutely right, but the question is, what has happened? Where's that fight gone from Norris? Is it running in the dirty air of his teammate? Is he a bit, you know, disappointed and trying to recover from the fact that he didn't manage to make it stick?
I suspect he's now saving tyres in this stage, and he wants to come back later on in this, because you're right, Norris isn't exactly all over the back of Piastri either. Piastri's now just dropped away from DRS range of Verstappen, the top 3 spreading out slightly. I imagine Norris is then, having lost the immediate position, thinking longer game, and these mediums are not going to hang on that easily.
It is lap 12 of 23 as we look at the Alpines getting close together. We've seen this story before. Esteban Ocon is ahead of Pierre Gasly. One man leaving the team, but he's the lead driver at the moment. We go on with the man who, on board with the driver who was announced of having a contract extension with Alpine at the start of the weekend. Across the line to start lap 12, Max Verstappen led Oscar Piastri by 1.3 seconds. Lando Norris 2.9 seconds off the lead of Verstappen, and it was Sainz in 5th, having been passed by Russell, Hamilton in 6th, then Leclerc in 7th, Sergio Perez in 8th place. And it is not close in that battle for 8th place in the last point at the moment. Kevin Magnussen is 5 seconds off the back of Sergio Perez. So we're looking at the 2 Alpines battling for 11th place, but it's not for a points-paying position.
Yeah, it must be a little bit frustrating, although the rules are very clear. Magnussen having a solid weekend and in a solid, what would be point-scoring position if this was the Grand Prix. But right now, very little chance unless somebody comes together up front that it's going to be anything other than just an extended practice session for the Grand Prix tomorrow.
It's a shame for K-Mag because he's actually driving a blinder. There's no way a Haas should be ahead of a Red Bull, a Mercedes, a McLaren or a Ferrari, and that's the 8 cars that are locking out the points at the moment. Magnussen's beating everyone else in the Haas, and that includes these 2 Alpines that started 8th and 9th. Both lost out at the start, and a chance of points potentially. It was always going to be tricky with Leclerc behind, but he came through straight away, and the rest of them trying to hope that someone comes together or has an incident further ahead. Otherwise it is, as you say, just testing right now.
Alonso in 14th, Stroll in 10th. Alonso's been quoted as saying that, you know, he's hoping that Lance will be the future team leader there. I'm sure he means long after he's retired rather than whilst he's there.
Yeah, since the development has not been what Aston Martin wanted, Lance Stroll having a far more competitive second season as Fernando Alonso's teammate than his first, where he's really blown away when that car was capable of podiums and comprehensively beaten in the qualifying head-to-head.
Norris is now coming back to Piastri. He's within a second, and he's going to have DRS now. So this might be the time, if you're McLaren and you think you've got a chance to beat Verstappen, he's going to be asking for team orders, surely, to not lose time fighting with his teammate. But I don't know if McLaren should grant that. Piastri got ahead of Norris by doing a sumptuous move around the outside. Shouldn't be for nothing.
Only if they think that he can go onto the back of Verstappen. Otherwise, all you're doing is creating a little thing within your team for no tangible benefit. But if suddenly we see Verstappen's lap times dropping off and Norris looking like, as you've mentioned earlier, Julian, he's saved his tyres and suddenly he's in a rocket ship, that would be the only reason.
He might be able to do it on track. He's really close.
We have moved on to lap 15 of 23. Max Verstappen led Oscar Piastri by 2 seconds over the line, 7/10 of a second between the two McLaren cars. This was the racetrack 1 year ago where they brought the updates to transform this team's fortunes. They'd had basically a decade in the doldrums, an occasional bright spot where Daniel Ricciardo led home a 1-2 in Monza 2021, but it has been a tough decade for Formula One's second most successful team in terms of wins, but consistently now they are always contenders. What a luxury problem to have about whether you'll swap the drivers around for second and third. Lando Norris trying to get the move done on track. This is the infield that we've talked about so much. This is the part of the circuit where Max Verstappen was able to stretch away through 7, through 8, and next up the right-hander, which is named for Jochen Rindt.
Well, if this is any indication of what we'll see tomorrow in the actual Grand Prix, then it's quite tight out there. Top point scorers only covered by 11 seconds. No real long need to be driving very defensively on these tyres. So it's showing the short nature of this lap, the triple DRS, all of those elements, keeping the cars pretty close together.
Max Verstappen extended his lead on the last lap. There he is, flashing through your picture momentarily before we see Piastri and Norris. You can see how Norris is catching Piastri in the last couple of laps, firmly within DRS. Is there an opportunity? Not this time. He gets close, but not close enough. And it's Verstappen, Piastri, Norris. Russell is in 4th, but crucially for Sainz, he's remained in DRS. That's on the cusp of changing. Last time around over the line, 9/10 of a second. If Sainz loses DRS, Hamilton could well be by for 5th place. This is Daniel Ricciardo, not in the part of the competitive order that he would want to be. The car ahead is Logan Sargent in the Williams. And the driver from Perth in Australia going the long way round and improving his position. This is for P16.
Nice move. Another race where no one's retired. Sometimes it could be a recipe for incident. This first corner up the hill, everyone's squashing together towards the apex where it's tight and the raised curb on the outside. But in the sprint, if everyone's still in it, it really is difficult to pick up results if you're starting further down. 24 laps do an awful lot of overtaking. It's really for Daniel, as much as a lot of those outside of the top 10, just about trying to figure out your tyre life, your strategies for the Grand Prix.
Just looking as we see this battle for McLaren, and we've certainly got Norris closer than he's been, being a bit more cautious with his lunge that he did to Verstappen earlier. But meanwhile, at the back of the field, Albon's managed to find his way past Joe, who's really having a pretty anonymous season in that Sauber, that Audi. Rumours about whether he has got a long-term future in F1.
He's lost confidence since they brought an update to the car. He's been open with that, just can't seem to find the sort of rhythm that he's had. He's been a multiple point scorer in Formula One before, but no, the confidence has fallen away, and he is the last driver on the road at the moment. 3.7 seconds off the back of Alex Albon, who started this one from the pit lane. Over the line to start another lap with Max Verstappen, 18 of 23. Max Verstappen leads. He's got just under a 3-second lead over Oscar Piastri. It's the battle for second that's going to be very interesting, and Carlos Sainz has now lost DRS, which is why we are focusing on this battle. You can see Hamilton has the opportunity. He's within a second. Sainz no longer within a second of Russell out front. We don't don't have the full complement of timing graphics to bring you, but you can see how close Lando Norris is. And still, it's not a rubbered in line on the inside. You get lots of moves in Formula 3 and Formula 2 there, but if you go super late into 4, you do risk your race. Max Verstappen did so, managed to claim the lead back, and in that move, Lando Norris found himself passed around the outside of turn 6 by Oscar Piastri, who found the grippy line, and that's how these two ended up in this situation.
They're not usually allowed to race, the two McLarens. In a Grand Prix right now, there would be team orders, Norris would come through, and that's what we've seen so many times between them in the year and a half that they've had together now. Norris generally has the better race pace, but they obviously don't think that they can beat Verstappen. As mentioned, Piastri's move was nice in the first place, so it's up to Lando to choose how aggressive to go for one extra point, but a little bit of pride between teammates as well.
It's worth a lot, though. It's the thing. I think they're in a phase now of their performance where, and look, Lando answered the question on his pass on Max. It didn't, unfortunately, play out in the way that he maybe envisaged. That bravery then cost him a position to his teammate, but that's what he's got to be doing every time. That's what Max does every time, as he goes a little bit deep into 4 and he's going to lose a bit of time there. Every time there's an opportunity, Max goes for it, and everybody knows it.
Is this another case of, after Barcelona, Norris kicking himself that he didn't get things quite perfect? He did so much right here. Remember, he started second. A win was a bonus. Looking like he's going to be second or third right now. But he had the chance to win it, and Max snookered him, didn't he? Having made the move, covered the inside, he gave Max that chance, and Max took it perfectly. And it's going to be another opportunity. It's a sprint. He's not going to be too hung up on it, I'm sure. But it was still another opportunity for him to get one over on Max, and Max has come out on top.
Well, maybe worth doing your homework in the sprint race ahead of the Grand Prix. He knows that he can pass into the third corner, and knows what it costs him when you go down to the fourth. A bold move between the two. 8 points available for the win here is important. There's 25 available tomorrow for winning the Grand Prix. We're on lap 20 or 23.
It's certainly he's showed his hand, hasn't he, with Max? Let's assume that it's those two in the front row for the main Grand Prix. Max now knows when he glances in his mirror and you sort of do a sort of calculation as to whether someone's close enough or not. He's like, wow, he's just done what I would have done, which is, I'm coming through.
The thing with this track, though, is I don't even know. So he's shown his hand, but what does Max do about that? Start defending the inside when Lando's a long way back, then you lose time, and then there's a move to be done at the next corner as well. It's the sort of track where turn 1 is a difficult pass, but into turn 3 or into turn 4 are both options. So if he starts defending thin air because he's wary of that pass, then that doesn't necessarily hinder Lando either.
Right, let's go from 8th to the race lead and tell you the gaps as we move into the latter stages of this third sprint race of the year. Sergio Perez is on his own in 8th place. He's going to bring home 1 point for Red Bull. Charles Leclerc, good start to this one, improved nicely. He started 10th on the grid. He's 7th now. 2.1 seconds back from this battle between Hamilton and Sainz. Sainz was using all of that curve out of turn number 1, desperately trying to give himself an exit where he can keep the Mercedes at bay. Hamilton P6, Sainz in 5th, then it's Russell in 4th, and you can now see the top 3 because it's Norris battling Piastri, and Verstappen is in position there. Stroll did pass Ocon. It left Ocon and Gasly battling, and they continue to fight, I can tell you, all the way to the bottom of the hill. But Gasly will know that Bruno Famin is not a happy chap if they even get vaguely close to contact. He's the team principal there at Alpine, and he's not close enough, we can see, for a move. It's not for points anyway, so there's no need to increase the risk. That is the battle between the Alpines for 11th and 12th. And we're on the penultimate lap of the sprint race as we go further down the order. This is going to be Aston Martin versus Haas. This is going to be Hülkenberg taking 14th place.
Big lock-up as he oversent the car there, but let's see if he had to defend at all. Looks like he didn't have to.
It's a bit miserable for Alonso, isn't it? Running 5 places now behind his teammate.
Yeah, good luck to whoever has to speak to Fernando after this one, because he's never loved this circuit, never been on the podium in Grand Prix format his entire career around here. But yeah, getting passed by the Haas And the Haas has gone on a mission up the road. Hulkenberg getting past Daniel Ricciardo. We are on the penultimate tour of the sprint race. Verstappen leads Piastri by 4.2 seconds. Lando Norris hasn't really been able to shape for a move, and that is one of the key battles on track. You will see that the Alpines on the timing page not separated by much either, and they don't really have much time left. If they're going to swap round, I don't think they will, with points not on offer. This is the final lap of the sprint race. Has Lando Norris left it for a last lap attack? We've seen last lap Lando around this circuit before when he claimed his maiden podium here in Formula One. Are we going to get another late show for the man who will be wanting to take at least second place home after this one? We've got Grand Prix qualifying still to come today. What sort of exit is it? Not ideal for Lando Norris. And how much will he risk if you consider that he's racing his teammate?
Yeah, he certainly lined himself up with a big break into 3, but he just had to open the steering, went a bit deeper, a bit wider than he would have liked, and barring a mistake from Oscar, it's all over. This will be the finishing position.
Well, out front, these two have played a brilliant part. It was a 1-2-3 punch out front. A late lunge from Lando Norris gave him the lead. Max responded at turn number 4, and the story continues here in Austria for Red Bull and Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen wins the sprint once again. He beats the two McLarens home, but it's Oscar Piastri in second place, and Lando Norris provided great overtaking. He risked first place. He ended up being third, but they provided a memorable lap around the circuit. It's Red Bull celebrating at their home venue once again. Verstappen, Piastri and Norris, the top 3. Verstappen, once again, will be celebrating being first at the flag around this circuit.
Well-driven race, had to fight for it.
Okay, solid effort. Well done, mate.
Well, that was spicy, but good result.
Yeah, that was very spicy on the first couple of laps, but well done. Very, very good pace and well managed.
Simply lovely, long forgotten. Welcome to the spicy era of Formula One. Norris went all in trying to claim his first ever sprint victory, and in the end he cost himself, but that was a brilliant sequence of corners. This racetrack lends itself so wonderfully for it. Hulkenberg and Alonso, they're going to look at that move. Hulkenberg getting by, forcing a driver off the racetrack. But Oscar Piastri, whether it be Grand Prix format, whether it be sprint format, matches his best finishing position of the season. He is in second place, like he was on the podium at Monaco a few races ago. He will be pleased with that one. Took his opportunity. There was one chance to get past Lando Norris, and he took it.
That was a nice aperitif, wasn't it, for the qualifying later and the Grand Prix tomorrow. McLaren, it's a tricky one. They've got two drivers fairly evenly matched, whereas Red Bull, there's such a gulf between the two. Perez was nearly a full pit stop behind Verstappen and a long way adrift, 4 seconds off the back of Leclerc, and really not in contention. But there is a benefit in that at least Max doesn't have a teammate nibbling at his heels in the same way as Lando does.
Well, Max Verstappen ready to get out of the car as a sprint race winner once again. He knows this feeling. And he has scored 24 points in sprint races this year, very nearly an entire total of points for Grand Prix. And he's led every lap by the end of the lap of the sprint races held here in Austria. That's 2022, 2023 and 2024. Even though he momentarily lost the lead to Lando, he got it back by the time that they cut the beam once again. And that was an excellent lap of racing between the top 3 in the race. Handshakes between the two of them. We spoke about it before. We spoke about it earlier on in the pre-show. It's all fine being friends when you're not in the same piece of tarmac, but these two a little bit ahead of everyone else in Formula One when it comes to outright pace at the moment. I know Oscar's just finished in second place, but we're going to see those two battling time and time again this year.
Lando's got to find a way to come out on top when they do. Only Miami so far he has, and he just had the pace, and they didn't go wheel to wheel at all. There's another race where they've gone wheel to wheel. It was a brilliant fight. Norris gave it everything. Verstappen drove really smartly, and just in that one moment where it was possible, Max made the difference. And then it was, as soon as Piastri came through, that sort of neutralised the race at the front.
There are our top three. The Red Bull at the Red Bull ring, flanked by a couple of McLarens. The man from Melbourne, Oscar Piastri, coming out on top. And that was a fine performance from him, the 23-year-old. And we're going to hear now from those contenders at the front. Alex Wurz is speaking to our winner and top three.
Well done, third position. I'm pretty sure you would like to be a bit higher than this. But nevertheless, it was a sensational sprint for us to watch. But please talk us through those few Grand Prix races.
I mean, a good race between us, especially with Max at the beginning, was good fun. Yeah, probably some things I definitely should have done a bit better in my battle, but I understand that, and the pace of the car was very strong, especially the end of the race. And I had a good battle trying to get past Oscar, but just didn't have enough speed with how much you lose in the middle sector with the dirty air. So it was a good race, a good load of points for us as McLaren, so a good job to the team, and of course Max and Oscar for the podium.
Yeah, you think as a team you could have played more together with Oscar and you to get Max today?
I don't think so, honestly. Like there, we're fair to race, and yeah, it was just too difficult to get past. But the pace was good. I don't think we would have had probably the pace to go with Max. I think he was maybe that little bit too quick for us today. But tomorrow's another day, and we'll try again.
Yeah, thank you. A quick one before the other colleagues are ready. I think you worn them out today with the pressure you applied. Lap 3, fantastic dive bomb, so my hat's off to you. Maybe talk me through your mindset in this aggressive move.
Yeah, I think a little bit like I saw at the end. I think once things settle in too much, it's difficult to, once the tires get too hot, it's difficult to do too much. So I had to make the most of my opportunity. Yeah, then I messed it up and left the door open like an amateur. So yeah, like I said, some things to improve, but we're there and we can definitely give them a fight tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oscar Piastri, you are already a sprint winner. Today you finished second. Are you happy with that position?
Yes and no. I think, yeah, obviously started one spot, finished one spot higher than I started, but yeah, just didn't quite have the pace in the second half of that one. And yeah, I thought Max and Lando were going to pave the way for me to come through at one point, but not quite. And yeah, some things to look at for this afternoon and for tomorrow's race, but we'll definitely take the points. A really good haul compared to the other teams around us.
We still need to ask you, lap 5, an ice-cold, beautifully executed maneuver. I mean, you just needed popcorn. You had the best seat in this battle. Talk us through, what did you think about when they battled? Did you plan it and your execution?
Yeah, I could see that they were battling quite hard, and into turn 4 I saw the move was quite late, and yeah, I knew that there'd be an opportunity on the exit. I was hoping I would get both, but yeah, just bided my time and yeah, tried my best. I think I had probably one opportunity to try and get Max the lap after, but yeah, just didn't quite have the pace after that. So yeah, in that one, being patient at the start paid off a bit.
Thank you, and all the best for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Max Verstappen, winner. Let's not talk about football. Sorry to beat you. Austria won against Holland, unless you really want to talk about it. But well done for such a strong comeback. Amazing start. Maybe the perception of the race for you?
Yeah, it was a good first lap, I would say. But then, yeah, once the DRS opens, it's very hard to get out of it. Took a few laps. Few exciting battles as well, but I think once we cleared the DRS, then I could do a bit more my own race, and then it looked all a bit better. But you could see they have two cars pushing flat out, trying to, of course, make it difficult for me. And yeah, we had to work for it in that race. So yeah, a few things to think about what we could do better for tomorrow, especially because I think tomorrow also is going to be, you know, even like longer races and you know, harder on the tires. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how that will evolve.
Okay, Max, but you spoke about learning things for tomorrow. We've seen around lap 4 or 5, you had a lot of clipping For those who don't know, it's the energy recovery, and that slowed you down on the straight. Is that maybe your weak spot for tomorrow as well?
I mean, it's just because they're in the DRS, so they use, of course, a bit less energy because naturally they spend less time on the straight, just catching up to me. And I think, you know, once they were out, then I could go back to my normal management, and then everything was fine again.
Okay, Max, so tomorrow you expect still a tough battle. Do you have anyone else on the cards in your rear view mirror as the McLarens for tomorrow?
Yeah, I need to have a look at the whole race. You know, of course, I was very busy with myself, so we have to look into the data about the others as well. And yeah, we'll see if we can do better tomorrow.
Good. You love it in Austria?
Sorry?
You're loving it in Austria?
Yeah, it's always good to be here.
Very good. So lucky you, we have Gerhard Berger, superstar, Austrian, former Grand Prix winner, giving you the prize.
Alex Wirtz with the questions and a sly dig about Austria's performance in the Euros against the Netherlands a few weeks ago. Gerhard Berger, who was the first ever Red Bull athlete and started their involvement in sport, but starting with motor racing. He was the first one sponsored by the company. And presenting first, second and third prizes to our drivers. Lap 5, really enjoyed it. That's why we love this sport so much. A really bold Daniel Ricciardo-like lunge from Lando Norris, getting ahead of Max Verstappen. But then Verstappen, keeping cool, responded well, took it back, and Piastri moving up to second place. Lots learned for the Grand Prix tomorrow, but a very entertaining sprint result after 23 battling laps. Max Verstappen out on top once again. Oscar Piastri equals his season's best with second place, and Lando Norris ruining the side-to-side, wheel-by-wheel action all the way through. George Russell was fourth, having lost that place to Carlos Sainz at one stage of the Grand Prix. And then Sainz did well to stay ahead of Hamilton. The Mercedes clearly kinder on its tyres. The last of the point scorers, Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez. Top 10 finish, but no points in the sprint format for Kevin Magnussen and Lance Stroll. Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly were glued together, but no contact between the two and no points either. Then came Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Alonso, Sargent, Albon, Bottas, and Joe. Hülkenberg is being looked at for forcing Alonso off the track when he got passed up to what was 15th and then 14th past Ricciardo. Well, my thanks to Jolyon Palmer and to David Coulthard for all of their insights. They will be back for Formula One Grand Prix qualifying later on. I know you will be as well. Well, the McLarens threw everything at that man, but Max Verstappen has taken the sprint once again, and he's claimed victory at the Red Bull Ring.